Here it is. Stop knocking on an open door. You have the power. You, your voice, you, your experiences, you, your knowledge, you, the things that you have gone through. Some things happen to you and some things happen for you. You're a gold mine. Coming out of this place where we are will be millionaires, billionaires, and witnesses. And those of you that listen to me, you're going to be a millionaire or a billionaire, but you won't be a witness. You won't just be standing around saying, I wonder what happened. No. Watch as well as pray. I like what Mary McLeod Bethune says. She said, pray as if everything depends upon God, but work as if everything depends upon you. If you're ready to, just if you believe that there's more in you, if you knew how to get it out, you'd have gotten it out. Come on, let's be real. Why'd you hire Mike Williams? Because I'd gone as far as I could go with the thinking and the approach that I had used. That's why Einstein said the thinking that has brought me this far has created some problems that this thinking can't solve. And most people won't give it up. They won't say, you know what? I don't know everything. Well, the majority of people think they know everything, that everything they know right now is all that they will know. The majority of people buy a book and don't read past the first chapter. Let me tell you something. February 17th, I still read. I'm still learning. I'm still growing. I got children, I got grandchildren, and I have 5 great-grandsons, one called King 7. Oh yeah, Valentino, he was born February the 7th, just a couple of days ago. He's a bad little dude. He's coming for you. Oh yes, he smiles at his daddy, Patrick. He's coming for you. He just looks so lovingly at his daddy. I can't wait to hold him. I can't hold him now. I can just look at him on Zoom. This is not right. This is just too much. I can't hold my great grandson because I don't want to put his life in danger, or his mother's, my granddaughter, or my son. This is different. This is so different. That's why we need to have things for our mind, have strategies for our mind. I'm encouraging you to go online and Google Les Brown speaking in the Georgia Dome and watch that speech on a regular basis. And Les Brown speaking, It's Possible. And Les Brown and Miles Monroe, watch those and listen to those on a regular basis and getting unstuck. Stuff, power for your mind. And for those of you that want to use the computer to bring your personality out, because you have the opportunity now. It's a level playing field. Everybody's got to do it from here. Everybody, you can order food. You don't have to leave your house. You can just pick up a phone. Instacart, I think they call that thing. They'll deliver it to your door. You just wait until they leave. And then you get your Lysol to go out and spray it and drag it in the house. This is a different place. Now, some people don't cope. They don't care. They go out. I ain't going nowhere. No, not at all. No. I'm fine right here. Oh boy. If you're ready to be coached, if you are ready to be stretched by me, if you want to be a world-class entrepreneur and business person, this is the new platform. Everybody's got to operate from here. Everybody. You want to invest in yourself. That's what I did. You want to develop your personality so you can get through there. It's not enough just to share information. You put me up against anybody. They can have PhD, MBA, or CB. CB stands for cornbread. That's me. You give them a computer and give me what? And let us go head to head. I'll get the butter from the duck. It's a level playing field. This is a golden age right now. Incredible opportunity for people who invest in themselves and get the coaching they need to bring out their personality, their passion, their energy, and how to monetize their knowledge and their skills. When a team have a losing season, they don't fire the players. You know what they do? They get a winning coach. They get a coach who wins. That's what they get. You want to be the best, you want to be coached by the best. I don't say this to impress you, but to impress upon you. Coaching matters. It matters. And so when you are serious and want a competitive edge and you want to win, I'm looking for people who are hungry to win. That's how I got here. I was hungry to win. I didn't care about your PhD or MBA. I was hungry to win, to control my own personal economy, to control my life, to take care of my mother, to buy my mother a home. I was hungry to do something that's me. It's me. I got tired of being fired. I'm not mentally fit to work for somebody for the rest of my life. There's some people that are. I remember a guy that I hired as my consultant. I'll never forget when I went to the city where I went to see him and spent a whole day with him, and he looked at me with amazement. And his wife said, when I left that day, he stopped me at the door and he said, "Thank you for turning to me as a consultant to train you how to speak and address corporations." He said, "But you know something, Les?" I said, "No, I wouldn't hire you." I said, "Why? I have an MBA. You think if it were in fact possible to speak to corporations around the world, I got an MBA, you think I would be working on this job where I'm working 65 to 70 hours a week? You think I don't have anything else to do with my time?" He said, "I'm just telling you, I got to check. I'm just telling you, you're wasting your time. They're not going to hire you." I said, "Thank you." He said, "You ought to give this up, man, and try and find a job in another city as a disc jockey." I said, "Man, that's behind me. I'm not looking back. I want to do something different with my life." And Mike Williams is with me. And his wife said, the two of them went to the window, looking out the window as I was getting in my car. And she asked him, "Do you think he's going to listen to you and give up this crazy idea of speaking to corporations and speaking around the world, even though he doesn't have an MBA like you, or any college at all, or any corporate experience?" And he said, to his credit, he said, "No." And she was stunned. She said, "Why? I thought you were very convincing. Why? He believes in you and what you say." And he said, "He doesn't know enough to know that he can't do it. And so he's going to go forward. He's going for it anyhow." See, sometimes you've got to be intelligently ignorant. You don't know what you can't do. According to the laws of aerodynamics, a bumblebee isn't supposed to fly because its large body cannot be held up by its little puny wings. But the bumblebee doesn't know it. Sometimes you've got to be intelligently ignorant. Lean not unto thine own understanding. There's some things that does not fit within the realm of logic and reasoning and being practical. That's why we're taught to judge not according to appearances. You got greatness in you. Don't you judge yourself based upon your failures, based upon your past, based upon the stuff you've gone through. No! Greater is he that's in you than he that's in the world. No! You were born to do good stuff. No! You are more than a conqueror. And if life knocks you down, try and land on your back, because you can look up, you can get up. If you're ready to get back up and control your own economy, if you're ready to get back up and control your own life and be your own boss, and let me show you how to do that. I can hook you up. Oh, he's on fire. Oh, behave. Whatever. Better must come. As Althea Grant said, I want you to say that to yourself. You're going through some stuff right now? I want you to say, better must come, in a voice of defiance. She was under her aunt's bed, and her aunt treated her like dirt. Her mother dropped her off and then let her know, I'm leaving the country, and left her with an aunt that treated her like nothing. And she heard a song called Better Must Come, and that was the mantra that kept her from losing her mind. Sometimes we need something that we can hold on to, something in spite of our situation, something in spite of the abuse, something in spite of the cruelty, something in spite of the hopeless situation that we find ourselves in, that we can hang on to and say, better must come. Better must come. So people are looking for ways, and I think it's important that you stay in your lane. I know what I do. I speak and I train speakers, and you help people to have events that will allow them to monetize their dream. You do the marketing. You help get the butts and the eyeballs in front of the computer, and help them to begin to take their success and their profits to another level. I want to ask you, how did you get into this?
Thanks for asking. Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. COVID was a part of this too, because you know, for most speakers, as you well know, Les, it was all about trying to find someone who would host you on their stage. And that was the speaking game before COVID, right? Everyone went to a hotel or a conference center, or if they're as good as you, a stadium, right? And in order to speak to these massive crowds and impact as many people as possible. But when COVID hit, all of a sudden, as everyone well knows, all of a sudden, we couldn't meet anymore. Right. And at that time, I was in the middle of an event. We were about to have an event at a hotel room. We had all these tickets sold, and no one could come. The hotel called us and they said, you can't have your event here. Wow. And you got to understand, when you have an event, for those of you who are speakers or who desire to be a speaker, someone who puts an event on, they're spending tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars, or in some cases, millions of dollars to put the event on, right? And so before COVID, no one was able to do this. There was a very small set of people who were willing to make that kind of investment in order to have an event. Well, we had put a bunch of money down, and all of a sudden we had to repay all the tickets. And so I said to my partner, I said, well, why don't we try and host the event on Zoom, online? And he laughed at me. He said, nobody's going to sit on Zoom for 2 or 3 days to have an event. That's absurd. You can't have a 2-day long event. And I said, well, we're going to give the tickets back anyways. So we might as well try, and if they don't like it, we're going to refund anyway. So let's see how we can orchestrate virtually what we were trying to do live and in person before. And so we did it, and the first event, Les, we ever tried, we had our biggest sales day ever.
Wow.
And we were like, wait a second, how is this possible? Because they actually sat through it, and we were actually able to hold their attention. And we thought, I wonder if this would work again. And so we did it again, and it worked again. And so I was like, I wonder if it would work with other audiences. And so we started doing all these virtual events. And so now I'm in rooms like in masterminds with different leaders who it's the hottest topic among the highest echelon of people in the speaker and even marketing world right now, everyone's doing events, because no longer do you have to pay hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars to do an event. You just have to gather the people on Zoom and do the event there. And it's changing the game.
It most certainly has changed the game. They're even doing Broadway plays online.
Amazing.
Come on. And so we've gone from brick and mortar to click and order. People can, in the comfort of their home.
No, you didn't. Go ahead. Go ahead and drop that.
Yeah, I had to drop that on you. Up it here.
Yes, sir.
All right. So people have a chance to be able to educate themselves, to acquire knowledge, to increase their value in whatever industry that they're in, to create a level of unity, even though they're geographically separated from their partners, from their organization, from their culture. And you do all the work that's necessary to put the eyeballs in front of the computer. Yeah. Tell us about your process, and who is it that would be interested in partnering with you so that you can do for them what you're doing for me?
Well, look, I think everyone listening has now seen someone on the internet do a virtual event. If you're paying attention, you're probably seeing advertising about events. Tony Robbins just did a massive online event he called The Challenge. The great speakers, or people who desire to be great speakers, even people with small audiences, Les, are now doing events. And it's not a lack of awareness, right? I like to say, for speakers, if you're a speaker or an aspiring speaker, it's not a lack of desire that's stopping you. It's a lack of direction. And so the direction that we give is there's really 4 parts to doing your own event, right? And the first thing is, I found, and Les, I'd love you to jump in on this, but I found for people who are trying to set big goals, because how many of you would agree 6 figures in a day, that's a big goal? Or 7 figures in a day, that's a big goal, right? The first time, Les, I just got to tell you this, the first time I was with a client and we did $1 million in a day. I want to show you what that looked like. Let me show you what that looks like when you do $1 million in sales in a single day. Here's what it looks like. You would think that when I got off that call, that I was jumping around and running around and screaming in my house. I wasn't. Here's what I looked like. Just my head in my hands, just sat there, and I was quiet. Because when you do $1 million day, you've got one question twirling around and around in your head. And here's the question.
What?
What have I been doing my whole life?
Whoa.
Think about all the time that's wasted, all the effort expended to get results significantly less than $1 million in a day. And when you realize, and so some people think, Les, when I say this, they think there were thousands and thousands of people on. No, there were 164 people on that call.
Wow. You know, they say opportunity knocks on every door, but I believe, and you believe, no. Opportunity stands by silently waiting for you to recognize it. Ladies and gentlemen, you just joining us. This is Joe Aaron, and Joseph has a formula. It's tried, it's proven. He takes all the guesswork out of it. And if you're ready to go to that next level, if you want to begin to earn money on steroids with your next event and the kind of experience that he creates, where people want to be a part of it and have their event and be able to transform their lives, increase their effectiveness and impact, he's the person that can get the job done. Tell them about how they can do that.
Well, listen, many times people will come on something like this, with you, Les, and, you're so inspirational. I was literally talking to a friend today, and their wife is struggling through cancer, and they're walking around, and he spends an hour a day as he walks down the road listening to recordings of you, because you've inspired and touched so many lives. And what I found,
when we get through talking, I want his number, because I want to call and talk to him and his wife.
That's very kind. I'll do that. Many times, I think people who feel a calling, a sense of purpose on their lives, will often imagine themselves as they fulfill their purpose standing on a stage. and they can see the crowd and they can feel the desire to impart something through their voice into that crowd. And so often I find that those speakers are waiting for permission.
Yes.
And I came to tell you today, you don't need permission anymore, because
Whoa.
you can make your own stage.
Come on now.
The world has changed. You don't need permission. You just need to make a decision. And the decision is, I'm going to get my message out. I'm not going to wait on somebody else, Les, to tell me that it's okay for me to get my message out. I'm going to get my message out. I'm not going to wait for an invitation from somebody else to get my message out. I'm just going to get my message out. I'm not going to wait till everything is aligned and the economy is perfect to get my message out. No. Now is the time for you to get your message out. And so if you're serious and not just curious about getting your message out by literally creating your own event, which you can host on Zoom, you probably talk to grandma and grandpa, mom and dad, or the kids on Zoom. With that same technology, with the right system and the right process, you can now host, for many people, 6 and even 7-figure days serving your audience at the highest level. And so Eileen and I, my business partner, what we've done is, because so many people are unclear, like, what exactly do I do? We put together a 5-day training. Now, it's an hour a day. We have Q&A and stuff like that. We put together a 5-day training called $1 Million Speaker Challenge. And at the $1 Million Speaker Challenge, you're going to get 2 hours a day, step-by-step breakdown of exactly what you need to do so that you can create your own event. It's time for you to get out of the shadows and into the light. You don't need permission. You just need a decision. So I want to welcome you to make the decision today. How many of you are all in on becoming the speaker that you've been called to be, on doing the events of your own so that you can get your message out? How many of you are done waiting on permission and you're ready to go all in? Typically events like this, Les, if you came live, it'd be like $1,000 to come to an event like this. But because it's virtual and you can just do it on Zoom, it's just $97. Is that a good deal?
That's a great deal.
Yep.
My uncle said there's nothing as painful as an untold story buried in your soul.
Yes, sir.
This is a chance for people to get their message out. But there's something else you're saying here. There's no secret to success. There's this system, and you have perfected the system that will allow people, and have already done it, to earn 6 to 7 figures doing an event.
We're seeing
this together.
Yes, sir. We're seeing pastors execute it. We're seeing newbie speakers doing it. We're seeing new entrepreneurs doing it. We're seeing influencers doing it. As a matter of fact, my business partner, Eileen, a lot of people think, well, I'm not sure what to say, or I'm not sure what I would sell. Guys, we've experienced all of this. There's a step-by-step process to decide, what am I going to sell? There's a step-by-step process to fill the room so that people are there on your Zoom room. My business partner, Les, the first event that she ever did, she had less than 10 people in the room, and she did a 6-figure day. So you don't need it to be massive, right? You just need to be executed according to the system. So if you're ready to go all in on executing the system that's already proven, all you got to do is go to less4speakers.com. That's less, like Les Brown, 4 speakers in the plural.com. And when you go to that site, you just scroll down the page, click the link. You can buy a recording and just get the recording. That's $500. Most people opt to go virtual, and it's just $97. And if you come live, we're going to do live Q&A with you. We're going to be there to walk you through all the steps, answer all your questions. And, it's just time. It's time for you. And I were talking, Les, and there's something you told me, and you're like, there's too many messengers out there who are silent.
Yes. Evil prevails when good men and women do nothing. But there's something else you said. You were about to go into, and I apologize for interrupting you, 4 very important steps that's a part of this process. And you were about to get into it, and I distracted you. Talk to them about those 4 steps.
Yeah, step 1 is, we say, decide. Mm-hmm. And many people struggle to make a decision. And the reason they struggle to make a decision is because I found that I didn't even understand, Les, what a decision was and why it's such a struggle to make one. In people's hearts, especially people in your audience, how many of you would love to impact other people's lives the way that Les Brown has impacted your life, right? Well, the first step is always a decision. But we struggle. And it's like, why do I struggle, Les, with making a decision to make the impact that I feel called to make? Why do I delay? Why do I make excuses? Why do I struggle to go all in? And the answer is I realize that a decision, the word decision, comes from a Latin word. Is it okay if I share some Latin here? If we get a little deep?
Please go up in there.
So the Latin root of decision is the word, you ready for it?
Yes.
Incision. And we all know what incision means. Because if that doctor comes up in your office or in your doctor's room and he says, I want to make an incision, you're like, oh no, you don't, doctor. You don't touch this body of perfection, and I don't want to get cut nowhere, right? Nobody wants to get cut, right? The word incision is the root. It's decision, which means to cut off. Why am I saying this? Because when you decide to do one thing, you are also simultaneously deciding not to do an infinite number of other things, because you are a creator made in the image of God. And so you could decide to do anything. But when you make the decision, you feel tension because you feel like you're losing something. But the paradox of truth is that you must decide to give focus to one thing in order to truly succeed. And so step one is just to make the decision, Les.
And I single, and my whole body will be full of light. What's
Amen.
number two?
Number two is filling the room. Many people struggle. They're like, what do I do exactly to fill the room? And so we have a system, it's the fill the room system for the perfect virtual event blueprint. And once you have the system for filling the room and like the step-by-step process, all you do is run the play. And once you can run the play, it really doesn't matter. We usually will start you doing a smaller event just to test everything out. And you may only get 20, 30, 50 people there, right? And it's like, it's okay. Many of our clients will get 20, 30, 50 people there and do 6 or multiple 6 figures on their first try. Would it be okay if you got a little war chest first and then you're able to build off that? So that's step two. It's like fill the room. And everybody thinks, man, once I can fill the room, I'm good to go. But I'm going to be honest with you, Les, and you know this as well as I do. Sometimes they think if they fill the room, they can talk real good and then they're going to make some sales. And the reality is there's a very specific journey you need to take your clients through in order to help them go all in with you to the next step, whatever it is that you're going to sell, right? And so figuring out the offer and figuring out how to orchestrate your event to help people make the decision, whether it's good for them or not good for them for the end of the event, is key. And so that's what we call hosting the event. The whole process of hosting, not an event purely for motivation, although everybody, even if they don't buy, they're going to love it, right? The way we orchestrate it is buy or don't buy, they're going to be changed and transformed as a result of the experience. But typically 20 to 30% of the audience, when done right, will purchase your product or service at the end of that event. That's called hosting. And that's step 3. So first we had decide, then we had fill, then we had host the event, and lastly, we have what's called post event. After the event, many of the people are going to want to join your program. There is a specific strategic process for how to collect the money at the end. Les, I've literally had clients who've had hundreds of people who apply at the end of their event, but then because of the way they, well, how can I say it? Messed up the system on the back end, they ended up with 5 or 10 or 20. You're like, oh my gosh, how could you have 100 people wanting to buy and then only 20 people actually buying? And the reason is there's a system, right? And so we've perfected the system over countless events. I don't know how many events we've done, but a lot, so that finally, we know exactly how to execute post-event once the event is over, to help as many people as are ready, willing, and able and are a good fit join your program. For those of you who are like, but Joe, I don't know what to sell. Don't worry about that. We'll show you how to solve that problem in the 5-day challenge.
Joe, you're taking all the guesswork out of it. And you're helping people to begin to monetize their dream and stay in their lane and let the operational process, the system that you have put together, leverage that in their behalf to put more moolah in their pocket. That's a wonderful thing.
I was homeless, Les, 3 times trying to fulfill my vision. I was serving a youth nonprofit near East St. Louis, Missouri, and started it from scratch and was serving hundreds of kids. But one of the problems I kept running into is I kept running out of money. And whether we like it or not, and, many times I'll talk to speakers and they're like, but Joe, I don't really care about the money. I just really want to help a lot of people. But the reality is that your income, your impact, and your influence are all connected. I would call them, they're in a codependent relationship. Your income will affect your influence. Your influence will affect your impact. And so many times we don't want to care about the incomes. We're like, I'm just about the impact. But if you bring the money in, you're able to then pay for the distribution of your message at a wider scale in order to impact more people. Unless many people don't recognize the codependence of that relationship. And so they're not able to get their message out at the level that that they'd really like to. And it's only because they're missing the understanding of that codependence. And so I'm on a mission to help people multiply movements that matter. And if your movement matters, you're going to need capital. How do I know? Because I went homeless 3 times trying to do it without money, right? Your movement matters, then you have you not only have a desire, you have an obligation to make as much income as you can to grow your influence and impact more people than you ever thought possible. And the best, fastest, most successful way to do that in 2022 is with virtual events.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you're just joining us, I'm talking with a gentleman who I have a strategic partnership with, and I'm encouraging you to do the same thing if you want to get your message out and be able to have a large audience and not just provide a venue for sharing information, but being able to create an experience that will transform people individually and collectively. And when it comes to putting on a virtual event, no one does it better than Joe and Eileen. Y'all got to get the butter from the duck. That's what I'm talking about.
So I wonder, Les, who's made a decision? If you're listening to this right now, have you made a decision? Like legit, like sometimes, Les, I found myself in stages of my life where I lied to myself and I told myself I was serious about it, but I didn't take the step. And the step is scary. And the step right now is really simple. It's just go to less4speakers.com.
When you say 4 speakers, you're talking about the number 4 or F-O-U-R?
Less4, F-O-R, less4speakers, right? And we'll have a link here so that you can click it too. Less4speakers, F-O-R, speakers in the plural.com. Because less is for speakers. Les is on a mission to help speakers get their voice magnified and multiplied, because we've got a world to change, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes, we do. And it's something that Steve Jobs said. He said, the storyteller is the most influential person in the world. Storytellers are able to create a shift in the consciousness of people, to be able to penetrate the culture and to create a culture of love and harmony and people coming together, standing together and creating a healing for the planet. And this is the time for you, all of us, those of you who feel like, I've got a story. There's a movement that I believe in, and I want to use this platform to take me to that next level, to reach greater numbers of people. And nothing does it better than the system that Eileen and Joe have put together. And that's why I'm a part of them. And this is why I put my name and reputation on the line for them, because they get the job done. They get the butter from the duck.
And you got to get that butter from the duck. You don't want the duck leaving with this butter.
No.
Les, thank you so much. It's been such an honor serving your audience. Anything else I can answer for the audience for you?
Well, some people ask, well, what does it cost? How do I open up the relationship? Because it's about partnerships today. People come together, collaborative, achievement-driven, supportive relationships. How do people get involved and be able to leverage your knowledge, experience, and your achievements for themselves?
Yeah, I think one of the success principles for those of you who, for example, I was in a room this past weekend right near Las Vegas, and everyone in the room, Les, had paid $150,000 to be in that room.
Whoa.
Okay. So it was high level achievers, people who were getting their message out. If I told you their names, many of you would know their names, because they're serious, not just curious about making the impact they feel called to make. And one of the things I learned from the men in that room, he talks about immersion. And one of the success principles, wherever you're at in your life, you may not be in a place where you can pay $150,000 to get in that room. But the success principle that everyone in that room understood and was willing to pay $150,000 for was that if I could get in the room with other people who are succeeding at a high level and immerse myself in their thinking, instead of thinking my own thoughts, what if I could get immersed in the thinking of other people who are operating at the level that I want to operate at? And so the principle of immersion, I would say, is the first thing that I would recommend to everyone. And one of the ways you can immerse yourself into becoming a speaker who can host their own events and do big numbers, right? As many of our clients are doing 6, some of them 7 figures, some of them multiple 7 figures in a day. The way to do that is immerse yourself, to get in the room. Somebody say, get in the room.
Get in the room.
Right? And so we're not asking you for $150,000 to get in this room, but we want people who are serious and not just curious. And that's why we said, you know what? We're not going to charge $1,000 like you do when you come to a live event. We're just going to charge $97. And when you come to this room, you get to immerse yourself. Eileen and I are in there. It's not just us though. The network of other influencers, leaders, and people who are passionate about learning the skill, they're in the room too. And it gives you an opportunity to immerse yourself in that room, get your questions answered so that you can start shifting your beliefs, start shifting your mindsets, start shifting your skill sets so that you can execute on the play that is, again, the most successful play that's out there. Les, when I was in that room of 150, there were 13 or 15, I don't remember exactly, 13 or 15 of us all in that room. 95%, there's only one person I can think of in that entire room who was not doing virtual events. It is the play.
Yes. This has been a billion-dollar industry, and now it's evolving to a trillion-dollar industry rapidly. So those of you who are watching, those of you who are ready to leverage this system that Joe and Eileen have put together and takes all the guesswork out of your being able to do a very successful virtual event, this is the opportunity. This is the time. Now's the time to take advantage of that and put your success on steroids and begin to leverage earning 6 to 7 figures in a limited time span and using the system virtually. It's exciting, and you got to be hungry.
80,000. What was it like as an aspiring motivational speaker? What was it like to speak to 80,000 people?
I wish I could tell you. I was so scared I don't remember it. That's the truth. But I was prepared for it, though. I was prepared. I train speakers, and here's one of the things that I teach them. Number one, you have to have a regimen that you engage in that prepares you for whatever life throws at you. And it's going to throw some stuff at you. And I had no idea on that day that I was speaking to 80,000. I thought I was going to a banquet room and speak to around 500 people. And the guy asked me, he's walking me down the hall and escorted me when I got there. And he said, what is it like to talk to 80,000 people? I said, I don't know. I'm speaking one of the banquet rooms here. He said, are you Les Brown? I said, yes. He said, come over here a minute. And he took me and he said, look out there. That's who you're speaking to. I said, whoa. I said, I'll be right back. And I took off running because I saw the sign said restroom. He said, where you going? I said, to the restroom, but it's number 1. It's number 1. Oh man, I was so scared. And so I locked the door and they were stalling, waiting on me. And they kept knocking on the door. And I said, I'm trying to collect myself. I said, I can't hear the voices. And then I heard them say, get his mentor, Mike Williams. So they went and got Mike. And Mike said, Brownie? I said, yes. He said, man, it's time to come out. They're stalling for you. I said, Mike, it's 80,000 people out there, man. I said, I can't think. He said, Brownie, are you afraid? I said, yes. And he said, Brownie, they came to see you. You didn't come to see them. He said, come out and make your mother proud. I said, don't use my mama on me, Mike. He said, yes, she would love this. They're videotaping it. Come on, man. She'll be proud of you. So I opened the door and I came out. And sometimes you have to have somebody's belief in you until your belief kicks in. I said, Mike, do you think I can do this? He said, yes. And we were walking. I said, will you all pray for me? And so they circled me. And I took their hands and put it on my head. As if that was gonna make a difference. And when I got up the steps, he looked at me and he said, Brownie, everything you've experienced has prepared you for this. You got this. I said, okay, Mike, thank you. And I turned, the guy gave me the microphone. And that's all I remembered. That was it. I just went for it. I'm just speaking from my heart. What we do, and I'll share this with you and you will have appreciation for it. As speakers, what we do is distract, dispute, and inspire. How people live their lives is a result of the story that they believe about themselves. What we do as speakers, we interrupt that story. We create an experience with our story that distract, dispute, and inspire, that distract them from their current story, and that through the execution of the story that we have experienced and what we've overcome and what we have achieved, we dismantle their current belief system and inspire them, as Mother Teresa would say, to become a pencil in the hand of God and start writing a new chapter in their lives.
What did you take away from your early studies of these speakers? And I'm going to get back to the strategic questions here in a second, but what did you take away from the people that inspired you? What caught your attention?
What caught me is that, one, you can transform people's lives and you don't know them. Complete strangers, based upon how you put your presentation together and them seeing you in a light that they feel comfortable letting you into their minds, and you can take them to a place in themselves that they can't go by themselves, because you can't read the label if you're locked in the box. And so I spent time to study the mind. How is it that I'm meeting these people for the first time? And what is it that I can do to create an experience that will transform them? Three-dimensional storytelling, that we can expand their vision of themselves beyond their mental conditioning and their culture and the environment that they're in, and touch their hearts, because we're emotional people, and ignite their spirit where they have the courage to say, I'm going to do something different with my life. That's to me is the most important things that we can do, because people are asking when they hear you speak, one-on-one, small groups, or large groups, who are you? What do you have? And why should I care? And so in the course of the presentation, when you address those things so that people feel comfortable, they trust you, they're willing to be transparent and allow you to come into their lives and speak to them and help them to begin to learn techniques and strategies on how to make the rest of their lives the best of their lives. Take them on that journey, that experience. Oliver Wendell Holmes said that once a man or woman's mind has been expanded with an idea, concept, or experience, it can never be satisfied to going back to where it was.
When you think about the audience that you're talking to really understand them, what are those, if you were to boil it down to maybe 3, 4, maybe 5 questions that you ask to really get to know that audience so you can deliver that, What's some of the questions you should ask from every audience before you speak to them?
When you look at yourself, look at the industry, look at where you're going and the goals that you want to achieve, and hopefully they're far beyond what you achieved last year. What radical change must you make in your culture, in your mindset, individually and collectively, and how you're showing up in your industry? Because people don't live life as it is, they live life as they are. So in order to do something you've never done, you've got to become someone you've never been. So what changes are you going to make that will allow you to begin to achieve these goals that you've set for yourself? You're in this place where Einstein said that the thinking that has brought me this far has created some problems that this thinking can't solve. And so now it's about going within. Now it's about self-awareness. Who are you really? Now, how did you get here? And what will it take for you to get from here to over here? This requires at another level a new set of skills that you don't have right now. So what is it you need to do so that you can upgrade yourself? You know, we have the computer, we have to do updates, to update yourself. Robert Schuller said, we either expand or we are expendable.
I love words. I love kind of figuring that out. And you, on purpose, said the word experience.
Yes.
Why is it? Because I've never heard somebody say it that
Because
way.
if information can change people, everybody will be skinny, rich, and happy. So it's not about the information. In order to you talking to a person who's a 9-to-5 person, and you want them to transform their lives. You want them to go from 9 to 5 to working from 5 until they faint.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. So that's a whole different kind of person. They must be willing to die to who they are now, to give birth to who they must become in order to be successful in this business. So you've got to create an experience for them where they feel motivated. There's no saying you can take a horse to the water, but you can't make it drink. However, if you strategically tell your story and create an experience for that person, you can create a thirst where they want to drink, where they want to be a part of this, where they share the vision, where they say, you know what, sign me up. I want to be a part of this, because you're creating a community of achievers. And in order to create that community of achievers, to increase your recruitment and to be able to retain your people that you bring into the business so it's not a swinging door, you've got to be able to tell that story again and again and again. Each time it's got to be fresh. Each time when people leave your presence, they must leave there feeling better about themselves, but talking about you and the role that you're playing in their lives and how you're transforming them.
So the story creates the experience?
Yes, and how you strategically tell the story. Just keep in mind, the most powerful position in the world, presidency of the United States, boiled down to 2 stories. An honorable man, Vietnam veteran, 5-year prisoner of war, John McCain. The Southside community activist, raised in a single family household, President Barack Obama. How they told their stories, the influence and the impact determined how much money came in, how many votes that were cast. So people are, as an entrepreneur, we've got to be able to tell our stories strategically, not just telling a story, because everybody's got a story. But you've got to tell that story in a way that people see themselves in the story. I'm known for, you got to be hungry.
Well, and let's talk about that. You know what I mean? Because I've known Les for a lot of years, and I've seen you speak, and we've been part of events together. And one of the stories that has been a centerpiece of your life is that you got to be hungry. And I do believe that network marketing professionals need to be hungry, and some of them don't have the hunger that they need to have. And through telling that story, and I've seen you tell that story
numerous
100 times probably.
Yes.
And you know what? Every time it still gets me because you've been a professional at how you've done it.
And I make the story the audience's story. When I tell the story about going back to the radio station.
Well, let's just tell it. Do you mind?
Well, yeah, I'm going to tell it and coach them on how to tell the story.
Good.
Yeah.
Well, maybe if we tell the story and then we can come back and say, okay, because a lot of people out here are thinking, he's got a story. He's got a story.
Do it like that.
I know. Well, he has it.
Yeah,
a lot of people are thinking,
yes.
Les has a story, but I don't have a story. My life is boring. My life is not interesting. My life is not special. It's not dramatic.
Have you heard of Marianne Williamson?
Yeah.
What's her story? She doesn't have a story. Marianne Williamson wrote a book about a book.
She wrote a book called Return to Love. Return to Love was about a book called A Course in Miracles. Okay? So you don't have to have a story. You can tell somebody else's story. For instance, I met a young man and he decided to become involved in multi-level marketing. Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to think about your goals and think about your dreams. And let me share something with you. How many of you know there's no such thing as job security? Well, keep in mind, this young man became in multi-level marketing, and I asked him, what's your story? He said he went to apply for a job. They told him if he would double the production, he could become the top manager at this company and would have job security, and he would be able to get a bonus. Not only did he double the production, he quadrupled the production. Guess what they did? As a result of the explosion in the business that they were able to acquire, they had to move to another facility, and they fired him. They said because of the new facility, they had to pay more money for the lease on the facility, and they couldn't afford his services anymore. Now, here's what the truth is. They had figured out how to do what he came in there and did. They no longer needed him. So the reason he's became a part of multi-level marketing is he knows that the 40-40 plan is gone, where you can work 40 hours a week for 40 years and retire. There's no such thing as job security. Today, you have to have something that you can call your own. And so in multi-level marketing, you're in business for yourself, but not by yourself. You have an opportunity. You have a shot. Everybody won't get rich, but you've got a shot to control your own financial future. And that story by that young man is a story that's being lived every day.
Now see, in 2 minutes, you
Yes.
told somebody else's story
Yes.
to this audience,
Yes,
and
because
gave
the
them
best-
a perfect example.
Right, because the best speakers make the fewest words go the farthest.
Yeah.
So you don't have to tell a story all day. And so I tell people, how many of you know, as you look at yourselves, how many of you know there's no such thing as job security? And I will raise my hand. The reason I'm doing that is that I want them to now make this man's story their story. So they'll raise their hands. Right. Good. Here's what happened to them. What they're saying to themselves, either that has happened to me or I know someone that has happened to.
Especially in today's economy.
Right. Now I'm transitioning from there to here's why he became a part of this. He wanted to create security for himself. And I'm saying everybody's not going to be rich. That answers what they think. Can I get rich in this? No. People work on jobs for 40 years and don't get rich, yet and still they come into this business and they want to get rich in 6 months. It's not that kind of party.
Right.
You've got to work, you've got to build a foundation, you've got to learn the products, you've got to learn the marketplace, you've got to develop your personality, you've got to develop your people skills. It takes patience and perseverance and persistence to build this business. But ultimately, as they say, in the beginning you'll do a lot of things you don't get paid for, but as you continue to grow, you get paid for a lot of things that you don't do.
Right.
That's the exciting things about multi-level marketing. It allows you to build something that you can call your own.
A lot of people are wishing right now that they had Les Brown in their pocket. They could carry him around when they went and talked to their prospects, and they could look him in the eye and tell him that.